become a world class or someone who's performed very well during his sporting career, then the rest of your life you have the easy way to be commentate on it, be in the media, do whatever, coach. So all these avenues are open for you. But when I left my sport, I never wanted to go back to it because I always feel that the human potential God has given us, all of us, enormous potential. But that potential only you can achieve if you keep challenging yourself. The moment you stop challenging yourself, there's no such thing as a plateau in life. Either you're going up, and the moment the challenge goes, you go down. So this is how the Almighty has made us human beings. So I always wanted to leave the sport after I'd finished because it was an easy life and I didn't want to stay in that life. So I first built this cancer hospital after I left sport because there was no cancer hospital in Pakistan, and it was the biggest charitable institution in the country too. It still is, and I have built now a second cancer hospital from donations, and I'm in the process of building a third one. And I've built 2 universities, and all of these are charitable. They are not commercial. They are basically for people who can't afford quality university education. Most people can't afford cancer treatment. So these are more or less 75% free in the hospital treatment, cancer, and 90% of the people in the universities get free education. So that was the way I was headed. And then I decided to go into politics because I realized that our country was being destroyed by crooked politicians. My belief is that countries are poor only because of corruption. And corruption is a symptom of not having rule of law. And by rule of law, I mean that a country that cannot bring the powerful crooks under the law, they become banana republics, they become poor countries. And that's why I came into politics. My manifesto was based on 2 principles. One was rule of law, and second was to make Pakistan a welfare state. That's why I came into politics 25 years ago. And I struggled for 22 years before I finally got into office.
Yes, what an inspiring story. So, Prime Minister, my first serious question is about Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a neighbor of both Pakistan and China. How do you see the situation there evolve in the near future? What should be the role of China in helping stabilize the country, if any? And also, many in the United States have blamed Pakistan's support for the Taliban in America's failure in Afghanistan. What would be your take on that accusation?
Well, firstly, the Americans did not study the history of Afghanistan. There is a saying that those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it again. So anyone who understood the history of Afghanistan would never have done what the Americans did. And I was the one who from day one kept saying that the Americans would militarily, they will not succeed in Afghanistan. First of all, they were never clear on what they were trying to achieve in Afghanistan. Was it nation building? Was it democracy? Was it liberating the Afghan women? They had no clear aims. If anything, once Osama bin Laden was killed by the Americans, their mission should have been over. Because theoretically, they only came to fight Al-Qaeda. But Al-Qaeda was decimated in Afghanistan in the first 2 years. So what they were doing after that, none of the Americans themselves knew what they were doing there. So when you have no clear aims of why you've invaded a country, it was always going to be a failure. And secondly, they don't understand the Afghan character. The people of Afghanistan do not accept foreigners in their country ruling them. They do not accept control from outside. They are one of the most independent-minded people. So anyone who thinks who can control the people of Afghanistan or occupy them, they haven't read the history. So I used to keep saying throughout 20 years that there was not going to be a military solution because I know the history of Afghanistan. My ancestors came to India from Afghanistan. So, and I read the history. So, unfortunately, no one understood because the generals believed in their firepower and they thought, they were invincible. But if a people do not want to be ruled, you cannot rule them. If a people do not accept a foreign invader, he will always find it difficult to control them for long. So, number one, the whole mission of the US was based on false premise and had no clear goals, and it was never going to succeed. Now what has happened is that after 40 years, actually there is no conflict in Afghanistan anymore. There is no civil war going on. There's no fighting in Afghanistan. But the problem that Afghanistan faces is that in the US, somehow, they cannot distinguish between the Taliban government and the 40 million people of Afghanistan. And the danger is that in trying to punish by sanctioning the government, the Taliban government, they will end up, there is a huge humanitarian crisis unfolding in Afghanistan. And this is what should be avoided. I have raised my voice on every forum. If Afghanistan descends into chaos because of the sanctions, because already, even when the Americans were there, half of the population was below the poverty line. So when a country that its budget depended 75% on foreign aid, when you cut off the aid and then sanction the country, this could be the biggest man-made humanitarian crisis. So what China, Pakistan, the neighbors, the Europeans, what they must do is convince the Americans that this is not the way to go about dealing with Afghanistan. Because in the end, if there's chaos in Afghanistan, the reason why the Americans first landed in Afghanistan was because of terrorism. So if there's chaos in Afghanistan and the Taliban government gets weaker, it will not be able to take on international terrorists like ISIL.